to step down, and he's known as kind of this investing behemoth. He's just he's done some pretty amazing things in terms of the amount of money that he's been able to make as an investor. I think he's worth studying, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about um, just some amazing things with Buffett. Um, First thing is that Buffett is a guy that we studied in grad school. Because he actually, I remember learning that he got a lot of his investing philosophy from this book written during the Great Depression by two guys by the name of Graham and Dodd, and the book was called Value Investing. And I remember hearing about this book when I was in grad school. It was honestly, when I got to my doctoral work, it was kind of seen as an elementary sort of book, very basic, simple ideas. But sometimes the simplicity will take you a very long way. Like one of the biggest things that I want to impress upon you is that a lot of the stuff that people think is super complex, that sounds fancy and over everybody's head, a lot of it's very simple, and a lot of it actually surprisingly links right back to common sense. Just things that your grandma told you when you were a baby, like diversification, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, you already knew that. You didn't need to take a finance class to know that you shouldn't put all your eggs in one basket. But sometimes we need basic things to remind us of what is actually really just a fancy version of common sense. So what I want to do today is, to honor this guy who I admire, I respect him, is I want to go through some little facts about Buffett in terms of what his investing philosophy is, and why I think Black people should really know about this man in terms not just know who he is, not just know the name, but really understand certain principles about wealth building that he embodies that have really helped him to become enormously successful. One of the things that I think can challenge us and hold us back is we a lot of our examples of wealth are just really horrible examples. Like I saw this. I'll give you one example, and it wasn't, and I felt bad even having to bring it up this way because what it was it was a really inspirational story. I put this on my Instagram. My Instagram is Dr. Boyce Finance, and so on my Instagram, I put this image that someone had posted about the race car driver Lewis Hamilton. And I'm gonna try to pull it up and I'm gonna read it to you so you guys can see it. Some of y'all follow me on Instagram, so you might have seen it already, but I'm gonna share my screen so you all can see it again because I really think this really kind of typifies how we sort of waltz ourselves right into the struggle financially by believing the wrong ideas and embracing the wrong ideas. So here it says here in 1995, a broke dad was denied $10,000 to fund his son's racing. He worked three jobs for 10 years. Today, that son is Lewis Hamilton, worth $285 million. Wow. I'm so happy for Lewis and his family. I really think that that's the most awesome thing in the world. And I love the idea of parents sacrificing for their kids. I have mentioned this. I've talked about this a lot. When we talk about investing for the kids, I just ask people a simple question like, does your child matter to you as much as your car note? Because you're awfully consistent when it comes to paying the car note, but you're awfully inconsistent when it comes to investing for your child. So clearly, the car note must matter more to you than your child. And of course, that's just my evil way of kind of like bringing up the obvious, kind of challenging you a little bit to say, look, I don't need you to get rid of the car. I just need you to make sure you take care of the baby, right? And so I get it. I love it. I respect it. Black dads matter. Go, black man, go. That's beautiful. But here's the other side of that. That's a little bit of a problem. The problem is that basically what they did in that clip was they're kind of selling you another hoop dream. They're selling you another lottery ticket. And the problem with a lottery ticket is that there's something in statistics they call selection bias. Selection bias is one of the biggest mistakes you can make as a statistician. It is one of the biggest statistical frauds known to man. When I was writing research papers at Syracuse University and I sent that paper to a peer-reviewed academic journal, The reader of that paper, the reviewer of that paper, was probably trained to identify selection bias. What is selection bias? Selection bias is when you handpick, you cherry pick the data that you want people to see and you hide everything else. Right? Like down in Brazil, you know how you see all these international ads from Brazil and everybody's blonde hair with blue eyes, but they got, I think about 20 or 30 million black people down there, or maybe it's 70 or 80 million. It's a big number of black people there that they just completely hide. That's selection bias. um in the movie The Hunger Games, where they would find one person or one couple that won the Hunger Games that survived after the other 99% of the people died trying to win the Hunger Games, and they parade those two people and get you to focus on those two people. That's selection bias, right? A lot of times, a lot of you might have been seduced by people that run day trading classes, and they will show you how much money they made that day, but they don't show you how much money they lost the previous 3 days. That's selection bias. So where selection bias harms the black community is you have little boys, millions of them, and little girls too, that will see, some rapper or some basketball player who signed $100 million contract, and they'll tell the story about how his single mother worked 3 jobs, washing clothes for white people, so that he would be able to get to the NBA, and now he bought his mother a house, and that's selection bias, right? Now, it's okay. I get it, right? The biggest stories are going to rise to the top. The biggest stories are the ones that are going to be seen. Jackie Robinson was selection bias. They didn't want the whole Negro leagues. They didn't want the whole industry. They didn't want everybody. They said, but we want that guy right there. We want this guy. We want to cherry pick. And everything else you can have. You can have all the other stuff. We don't want no black owned businesses. We need black owned employees. Okay. So here's the problem. The problem with the selection bias is that it's a lottery ticket and they're not telling you the whole story. I'll give you another example that you could probably understand. Even with the R. Kelly documentary, Surviving R. Kelly, I'm not saying I never thought R. Kelly was a good guy. I don't. I think R. Kelly, had some issues for sure. But when you show me a documentary where every single person you talk to has something negative to say about the person, that's selection bias. Because my again, just because I like truth, I like honest information. I want to talk to everybody. I want to know if I really wanted to figure out like what kind of person is this guy. I want to hear from every single, like 50, 60 randomly selected people who just know him so I can draw a clearer picture. Because it wouldn't help me if you another other side on the other side. It maybe you have a documentary where everybody thinks he's a wonderful guy, right? And this happens in the court of law, right? The prosecutors will tell you all the reasons why the person's evil and why they committed the crime. The defense attorney will tell you all the reasons why this is a wonderful person who can never hurt a fly. Both of them are lying because both of them are using selection bias. So here's my point with the Lewis Hamilton thing. That's a bad wealth example because you're getting people all pumped up and inspired to invest their lives into a lottery ticket. Lottery tickets don't usually cash in. For every one Lewis Hamilton, there's 100,000 other people who tried to be Lewis Hamilton and failed and had no fallback option. And so what the reason you're doing people a disservice sometimes when you do that is because you invest in things that you believe in. And I'm gonna get to Warren Buffett in a minute because Warren Buffett actually has some philosophies on that very topic. You invest in things you believe in, things that have a reasonably good opportunity to work out. Warren Buffett would not have invested in a Lewis Hamilton type of story. He wouldn't. He didn't have hoop dreams. He was a very he is he's I'm not was he's not gone, he's still here. He's a very conservative investor. He would never go out and buy a freaking lottery ticket and then spend all his time and energy on a lottery ticket because he knows that that's probably the quickest pathway to going broke. So so the loss here, the challenge for the community is that we have to confront is that there are a lot of people that sell us hoop dreams that never materialize. So you have millions and millions of hours of potential, millions of hours spent by little children working hard to become the next LeBron or to become the next NFL star. And all that ends up being wasted when those millions of hours could have been diverted to something else. I have met thousands of children over time who probably, if they spent one third as much time learning business and investing as they spent learning football, basketball, and whatever else, they would be multimillionaires right now. They will be multimillionaires. It's much easier to go out here and build a business that makes you $1 million than it is to get an NBA contract that makes you $100 million. And in fact, just even if you look at the statistical probability of a kid being tall enough to even go to the NBA, that's not to get to the NBA, you got to win the genetic lottery. You have to be in the top 2% in terms of height just to even have a chance. We got a 6'9" in our house. But I can tell you, he could never go to the NBA because those guys are extraordinarily athletic. But everywhere he goes, I never see a person taller than him anywhere ever, and everyone looks up at him because he's so rare, right? So that is a rare thing. Just winning the genetic lottery, that's already hard enough. But then on top of that, you got to be among the best athletes, among the people that are already 6'9". There's lots of Division III players that are 6'9" too, who will never go to the NBA. So my point is to say that, when you're talking about wealth and investing, you have to pick the right hustle. That's my point. You have to pick something that gives you a balance between strong reward and high probability of success. Because if you don't, you're going to end up wasting all your damn time chasing a fantasy. And nobody gets dreams and hypes and fantasies promoted to them more than the black community. We get all these little dreams, we get all excited and inspired, and it's not going to lead anywhere. And so then you end up sad and depressed and oppressed because your dreams never came true. But maybe it's because somebody tricked you into having the wrong dream. But anyway, do me a favor, really quick. I want to um, mention, oh, really quickly, don't forget the Economic Elevation Summit is in Miami, May 9th and 10th. If you want to join us in Miami, you can go to economicelevationsummit.com. You can also get a virtual pass on that website. So feel free to join us, economicelevationsummit.com. Somebody please type that in the chat. Also, I'll be speaking in Detroit at a church, and the church has a name, and I wrote the name down. It's called Daylight Christian Center Church. So they're doing like a marriage conference there, which I think is very cool. I heard there's an NBA player named Paul Pierce yesterday who said marriage is for old people and poor people, which was kind of hilarious to me. But I understood why he said that because, well, first of all, number one, NBA players are not exactly not all of them are stupid. I'm not saying that at all. There's very smart guys like Jaylen Brown, stuff like that. But most of them, they're really smart about basketball. They may not be that smart about relationships in life because they kind of live in this weird little world, where women fall at their feet and stuff. And then they learn as they get older. And then also, if you look, you can learn a lot about people's perspectives by how they grew up. So with Paul Pierce, what I noticed was Paul Pierce grew up without watching his mother married to a man. So he never saw a healthy marriage growing up. So and unfortunately, when a boy doesn't see his mother compromising and working with a man, he kind of maybe might grow up thinking that, okay, my mama's just going to do everything. Women can do it all by themselves. They can raise the kids, pay the bills, all that, and we could just run around and get them pregnant and stuff, and then leave the rest to them, right? So a lot of times, unfortunately. Culture matters. Culture matters. Culture matters. We always talk about the culture, the culture, the culture. So one aspect of the culture is that, unfortunately, in many cases, unless there is an intervention, unless there is a transformation, a lot of children that come from single parents might believe it's okay to just go create more single parents. I'm not saying this is something that happens all the time, but most of us have seen this. Most of us know what this looks like. I got married. I didn't get married because it's easy. I didn't get married because I know marriage was just going to be a walk in the park and that you'd be in love every day and everything was going to be wonderful. I never had such a fairy tale. I saw reality of marriage having ups and downs. and that the good outweighed the bad. I saw marriage almost like starting a business. People who start businesses thinking that being a business owner is a fairy tale are usually not going to be successful, right? People who start businesses, if you're not prepared to have a lot of losses and challenges and problem solving and issues that come up, then you probably shouldn't do it. But people who grew up watching entrepreneurs or maybe have studied it or talked to entrepreneurs kind of know, like, no, every day ain't gonna be a walk in the park. Every day is not cupcakes and ice cream. But the reason you do it is because you set yourself up in a space where the good outweighs the bad. You know that even though I'm going to have more losses than most normal people will ever have, I'm going to have more gains than most people will ever have if everything goes right. So I might lose $100,000, maybe $1 million. But if I gain $2 or $3 million, then the good outweighs the bad. And I would say marriage is kind of like that too, right? If you don't get married, then yeah, and then none of the ups and downs are there. You just have to deal with the ups and downs of being single, which means you're in another relationship, right? And unfortunately for some people, they say I'm going to avoid a relationship with a woman, and so they end up in this single world where it's like this relationship with loneliness and poverty and STDs and chaos in the dating market, right? So you're kind of having some kind of situation, right? So it's the same way with being an entrepreneur, right? Either I'm dealing with the crap on my job and dealing with my boss and dealing with my coworkers who might be racist, or I'm dealing with the challenges and the struggles of being an entrepreneur with ups and downs and paying people and all these other things, right? No matter which way you go, there's opportunities in both directions, there's problems in both directions. So with Paul Pierce, when he said marriage is for poor people and old people, I didn't really get mad. I just kind of said, okay, well, I forgive him for he knows not what he do. It's almost like me saying, well, basketball is only for dumb people and it's only for people that don't have anything else they could be doing with their lives. Like that would be a silly thing for me to say. Or they only a goofball would go play for the Boston Celtics because that's a big town full of racist people. That would be a silly thing for me to say because I'd never played for the Celtics. They never wanted to recruit me, so I don't even know anything about that. So sometimes I think one of the things that's really important too, and I'm gonna circle back to the Buffett stuff on investing in a minute, is I really think that we have to be very thoughtful about who we're getting our advice from, right? We have to be really thoughtful about like I encourage you every time somebody gives you advice or gives you information or speaks as if they're some sort of authority, which we know that an NBA player is not an authority on relationships. They're authorities on basketball. Um, you have to really take a moment and try to understand where it's coming from, right? And it doesn't mean that they can't add value, but your value can only typically it's going to fit within a box based on your point of view. Like so, for example, for me, if I give you advice, I'm giving you advice as a black man. I see everything through the lens of a black man because I've been one most of my life now. Um, I'm transracial. I used to be white. I'm kidding. And also, I see the world through the lens of a scholar. I just believe in thinking carefully and deeply about everything. So I hyperanalyze every single thing that I see. Um, I'm giving you a perspective as somebody who I'm not good at, like, for example, working for white people. I haven't done that for 30 years. So if you ask me for advice on how to get along with your boss or how to keep your job, you probably should not listen to me. You should take it with a big grain of salt because I'm the black man that will get you fired. I'm the one who's going to say, well, why do you need the job anyway? Why do you have to be there? Right? It's almost like dating, right? When you are in a relationship, you ever see that where somebody will go get like a married woman will get relationship advice from her single girlfriends? And the first thing they say is like, girl, I wouldn't put up with that girl. You need to get rid of him. And then next thing you know, you're divorced because, well, I mean, because they're divorced and they're single and they're not married to nobody. So how they gonna tell you how to stay married? If you see, so to me, before you go get advice, you gotta ask yourself, what perspective do I really want to hear, and what perspective is gonna benefit me the most based on what I'm trying to do, right? And so if as a married man if I'm trying to get advice on my marriage, I have to first decide, well, what do I want? Right? So if I want advice on how to have the courage to break up with my wife and to be single again and go on the dating market, then I got friends I can call for that. But if I want advice on how to stay married, where it's going to be one plus one times two to the third power divided by four equals go home to your wife, then I call my dad. I call my father because my father was married to my mother 50 years, and I know that no matter what he tells me, no matter what lines he tells me to draw on the sand, The answer to the equation is always going to come back to go back home to your wife. Go talk to your wife. Spend time with Alicia. Go see how Alicia feels, right? So really, I would say that I'm not here to say that necessarily all the people that are running their mouths on the internet are giving bad advice. I would just say that you have to really be thoughtful about the perspective of the person that's advising you. And it's the same thing is true with financial advice. When you talk about financial advice, you have to look at the perspective and the ideology of the person giving you financial advice. An entrepreneur is going to give you different financial advice from somebody who has a job. A single person will give you different financial advice from someone who's married with a two income household. A person who has made money will give you very different financial advice from somebody who is going to try to make money. Those are two different things. Somebody who knows how to make money, who's actually done it, sees things very differently because they've experienced certain things. They've seen the nuances, like how Michael Jordan got really angry during that documentary. Remember, he said they said, "Well, Michael, people say that you're mean and that you're this and you're that." And he said, they've never effing won anything before, right? He's like, you don't know what it takes to win a championship. And I'm like, damn, you're right. I don't know what it takes to win six champions. You didn't win one, you won six. You stole champ. Patrick Ewing should have a championship. Charles Barkley should have a championship. Gary Payton should have a championship. You took it from everybody. What's your secret? You clearly know something that other people don't know. And anybody who was dumb enough to ignore you when you're giving them advice on how to win championships doesn't understand how to get the right advice, right? So many times we will get advice from people. Let's talk about financial stuff again. I can tell you, I'm gonna just tell you the truth. As a business owner, it's hard for me. I have people come to me all the time. Hey, Boyce, you should do this. You should change this. You should fix that and fix. And I'm like, I want to listen to you, and I'm listening. I am gonna listen because I respect you, but I'm gonna hear your I'm gonna look at your background and your perspective. And if you haven't shown me anything in your track record that shows that you know how to actually navigate this space at this level or in this particular way, I don't really know how much of that advice I can take because it may not apply to me, right? You've had a corporate job working for white people, or you're working with Apple and Bank of America, and they're funding your organization. That's not applicable to me because we don't take money from Bank of America or Apple or any of these corporations. So really what I'm saying to you is when you get your advice, financial advice, relationship advice, any kind of advice, start with the end in mind. Start with like, okay, what is it that I'm trying to do? And is this person even qualified to tell me if I can do it? And that's really interesting too, because it makes me even think about the educational system. And I remember having a debate when I was at Syracuse University, and I was getting critiqued on my research and stuff like that, and my qualities as a professor. And I just told them, I said, well, I don't know if you guys are qualified to evaluate me because you've never promoted a black man in 100 years of existence. So clearly, you've got an issue with promoting black people and even identifying talented black people. You've never done it before. So I said, I honestly have to admit, I'm not really hearing a lot of what you're saying, not because I don't want to listen, but because I need to hear from people that can actually help me become the kind of man that I want to be. But when I met Dr. Claude Anderson, I said, okay, that's a man that I would love to be. Let me tell me what you think. Dr. George C. Frazier, I listen to him. Kenny Gamble out of Philadelphia, I love Kenny Gamble. I don't talk about him that much, but I love this guy. I listen to him, right? So you got to listen to the people that are going to get you to where you want to get to. So I'm going to say one person I think you might want to listen to when it comes to investing is a guy like Warren Buffett. Um, so let me give you some info on Buffett, just so you can know just what a badass he is. This man is remarkable, impressive, and he's worthy of every accolade that he's received, in my opinion. Check this out. So he started. So first off, if you'd invested $1,000 in his company, Berkshire Hathaway, in 1965, it would be worth $30 million today. So that's one interesting factoid. Number two, he made 99% of his wealth after the age of 50. How crazy is that? 99% after 50. He reads 500 pages a day. He says knowledge compounds like money. He pledged to give away over $100 billion, which is the largest philanthropic commitment in history. And he still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. So, if you hang out with Buffett, you won't find no Gucci belts. You won't find women in bikinis in the sauna in the back. You're not gonna see him driving, pulling up in something nice. He's a person that has a value system that doesn't necessarily link to all these material things. Now, I'm not here to say that you can't have nice things. I honestly think that that's kind of extreme. Like the fact that he'll drive around in a car that's 20 years old and stop at McDonald's and get a hamburger and like a regular person. I think that's a bit much. And plus, eating at McDonald's ain't healthy. But still, at the same time, though, I admire this idea that this man knows who he is to the point where it's like I don't really need to pull up on you and big ball myself out of existence just to make a point, right? I don't, and I really encourage you to kind of think about this when you're talking about the culture, right? And how the culture I've seen so many times where I was kind of pushed and pressured to try to behave a certain way or flex in a certain way and that really is I mean there's some primitive aspects to that. There's like you go back to primates and stuff, there's ways that gorillas show that they're the strongest gorilla and all these other things, but you're not a gorilla. And Warren Buffett, he doesn't do these things at 94. He didn't do them at 84, 74, 64, 54, or 44, right? So it's not as if he became this like meager old man over time. No, he never did these things because he focused on the work. He's always focused on results. He's focused on substance over flash, and he didn't go chasing every trend that came along. And I admire that. I think that that's really something to pay attention to in terms of the fact that you don't have to be this insane risk taker in order to build wealth. That's another thing that's another false flag of a dream that we get fed is that you got to bet it all. When I used to do stuff with Damon Dash, it was really hard to do sometimes. I like Damon, I really do. I think he's a very smart man. We became very good friends, but it was like every other conversation was I bet it all, I bet it all, I bet it all. And I'm like, why do you have to bet it all? You don't have to bet it all. You make in strategic and intelligent investments that will help you to succeed. Now, with Damon and Jay-Z, they had some big bets that paid off very well. He did discover Kanye West. They did build Rockefeller Records, and all these other things. But I can tell you, as a person who spent a lot of time with Damon and a lot of times with Kanye West, you see that there's sort of this other side, this underbelly to the culture that we don't understand very well. That maybe it shows up when you get in your 40s and 50s. The rapper DMX, he's dead right now, but if you went back 20 years, he was the biggest thing smoking. So there's something in our culture that's being fed to us that's misleading a lot of our young people into misunderstanding what success actually looks like. So the reason that a Warren Buffett is somebody worth studying is that this was a guy who never took crazy risks. He didn't go throw it all out there and just act a fool and just try his best to put it all on the line. He didn't go out into situations where he had no plan B. I think I heard an actor say that. He said, no, you got to go with plan A. You can't have a plan B because you have to put yourself in a position where you have no other option but to succeed. And I was like, no, I don't think that's good advice. I think that it's okay to have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D and a plan E and a plan F and a plan G. Yeah, I think it's okay to use every letter of the freaking alphabet. It does not mean that you're not committed to your plan A, but this idea of sort of betting everything it's not required to do that. It's not required. Now, if y'all want to give me a second, I actually have to run to the bathroom. I know this is ghetto, but can y'all give me like 60 seconds to run to the bathroom real quick? All right, and in the meantime, while I do that, actually, to give you something to do if you want, if you here is y'all know summertime's coming, right? And I'm really trying to encourage and incentivize you to do something for your kids, like get them involved in something active, like build a little university in your house. So we have these workbooks and flashcards for kids, and I'm gonna put it in the chat. And if you use the code Morning70, you literally can have 70% off anything that you want to get in terms of flashcards or workbooks. So here's the link. I'm gonna put it in the chat. And so feel free to go take a look at that while I run to the bathroom really quick. And get whatever you want and use the code Morning70, all one word, and it will take 70% off the price. That includes every bundle. Even if there's already a discount attached, it'll take another 70% off the discount. So these are just some tools. We have flashcards on everything from real estate to credit to entrepreneurship to in my book, The Ten Commandments of Black Economic Power. There's flashcards for that. Anything you want to teach your kids, I think flashcards are a great tool for kids and adults, right? So even if you want to learn this stuff, you can use flashcards yourself. And then there are workbooks for every grade range, going all the way from first grade all the way to the top. I think that our kids should be the best wealth builders on the planet, not just the best basketball players and football players, but we're better than that. We're more than that. We're more than just athletes. We should be actually dominating economically. It doesn't take a lot of work. Just make sure that you do the basics. So Bernard says, my daughter loves the flashcards. Great. Yeah, Bernard. Okay, hey Bernard, good to see you, man. I know Bernard. His daughter was reading at the age of 3. Right, Bernard is and this is something that I know I said I was gonna go to the bathroom, but now I got to hold my pee because I got to make this point. This what Bernard does that I just respect because he's come to some all black national conventions and I know his story. He really reminds you of what a dedicated, devoted father does. How they can just literally shift the whole trajectory of their child's life. Like I mean, we know mamas, mamas, y'all know y'all the superheroes, right? You've heard me talk about the importance of mothers and my mother and things like that. But but in terms of Bernard, I'm talking about fathers in the sense that I've seen him proactively make sure that his daughter is ahead of the curve. So his daughter was reading at the age of 3. She knows finances at the age of 5 or 6. She's gonna know more about money and wealth by the age of 7 or 8 years old than most adults will ever learn in their whole entire life. Now, I want you to imagine two things. One, I want you to extrapolate that into the future. I want you to imagine what happens to a child when they have the financial intelligence of a college educated 40-year-old, but she's only 8. How far can this child go? What's she going to be when she's 28, 38, and 48? What's she gonna she ain't gonna be no just regular employee. She ain't gonna be out here struggling. She ain't gonna be, somebody's broke on the corner trying to figure out a way to make a dollar. She's gonna be somebody's CEO. She's gonna be probably a millionaire because I also know Bernard has embraced things like the $5 a day plan. So he's gonna give her a capital base, right? But then the second thing I want you to visualize is imagine if we had 2 million kids like that. So I want you to think about this, right? In a world where there's all kinds of racism, there's all kinds of systematic barriers, there's all kinds of people that seek to oppress us. But imagine if we showed up in the year 2050 with 2 million black youth, black children who are now 30 years old, who are in the top 1% in terms of economic intelligence and wealth preparation. You can't oppress a community like that. They will own the Panama Canal. They will own the Empire State Building. They will go purchase entire city blocks. They will own large percentages of major corporations. They will run trillion-dollar companies at that time. That's what they're going to do. That's what's going to happen. And as we kind of talk about Buffett, I'm going to talk to you how about how Buffett was able to pull that off because there's no reason why we can't have 2 million baby Buffetts in our community. It's very straightforward. What Bernard is doing is exactly on point. It's not complicated. All he basically did was said, as a father, I love my daughter. I'm going to show it not just through my words, but through my actions and introduce her to some basic things as a child that are going to put her ahead of everybody else so that not only will she be ahead, but she's accustomed to being ahead. Do you understand? She already knows that she's supposed to be ahead. That's huge. That's building a culture of knowledge, a culture of economic intelligence, a culture of financial security, a culture of economic strength. And then when she's getting her Lifetime Achievement Award at the age of 45, she's gonna, and this will be in the year, maybe the year 2045, she'll be shouting out her father. She'll say, my father did this when I was a baby, and I do this with my kids now. So not only is he doing this for his daughter now, but he's doing this for all the future generations. They're all going to remember him. This is what I see, and this is what a lot of you are already doing. And I just want to encourage you, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's going to make a difference. It's not even, you're not only going to succeed at the level that you expect, you're going to get more than you would actually even think that you could get. My grandmother, when she introduced me to compound interest when I was 5 years old, she didn't think that it was going to turn into this. She didn't think it, she just wanted me to stay out of jail and stuff, right? So keep going. You're supposed to win. Now I'm gonna go to the bathroom. Give me like 2 minutes. Right back. Okay. Thank you for your patience. And I know it's so ghetto for me to stop in the middle of class and go to the bathroom, but nature calls. That's what you got to do. All right. All right. So let's talk about Buffett real quick so we can and there's always so many little thoughts that'll pop up and I'll end up going in a different direction from what I expected. But all right, so with Warren Buffett, so we mentioned how much money he has and how wealthy he is. And a lot of people don't know he's sitting on I think he's sitting on about $160 billion in cash right now, which is just kind of strange, but he's very patient. And here are some quotes that Warren Buffett has that I think can help you as an investor. And these are very simple ideas. And I love the simplicity. I love simplicity as a teaching tool for you to really understand complex concepts. Because believe me, every single simple idea I'm going to lay out for you has about 1,000 research papers written on it, verifying it with deep mathematical theory. That's the crazy part. And so here's one thing that he mentions. He says, "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." I've actually mentioned this in class before. That basically, one of the mistakes that people make is they engage in herding behavior when it comes to investing. They follow the crowd, and so the crowd will buy more when the prices go up. When actually you should be going the other direction. When the prices go up, you should be willing to sell or waiting until prices go down. Then when prices go down, everyone starts selling because they're afraid of losing everything, and it leads to all these trauma triggers that Dr. Alicia breaks down in our Black Financial Therapy department that basically lead you to losing wealth. The Black community lost probably about $1 trillion during the 2007 2008 financial crash or financial crisis because we sold our stock when we saw everything going down because somehow your brain gets locked into this idea that there is no tomorrow or that this is all that there is or that it's going to stay down forever and the market's never gone down and not recovered. So he says be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. So when everything's, burned down and torn to the ground, smart investors, that's when they're doing the most buying. Number two, he says price is what you pay, value is what you get. Believe me, that's a big financial theory. It's a very simple idea, but what he's basically saying is don't focus on the price tag of something. There's a lot of research that shows that people will pay more for something just because the price is higher, and it's crazy because it doesn't. It's not just financial stuff. Even in dating, you ever see people? There's a lady who wrote a book, and the book was called like Men Love Bitches. That was the name of the book, right? And basically, she was saying, look, if you make yourself really super hard to get, then you're gonna really get this man to chase you down because you're being so hard to get, because you don't want him, because you're walking away. And all of us have seen this. Maybe some of us have fallen victim to this, where you spent your energy pursuing the person that didn't want you and didn't want the person who really, really, admired you. Right. And then eventually you got your feelings hurt enough times, hopefully, that you matured and said, no, wait, at least I did anyway. I was like, I'm not chasing no girl who don't want me. I'm gonna turn to the woman who does. And so really ultimately what he's talking about is that there's something about pricing of things. Like when a Gucci bag costs $2,000, it makes people really believe that Gucci bag's worth $2,000, even though it might have cost $50 for them to make it in China. And so he's basically saying like that's a sucker move. He said price is what you pay, but value is what you get. So he's basically saying don't look at the price tag, look at what that thing is really worth. So Warren Buffett is a master at evaluating the true value of a company. He's like, I see what people are paying for it, but that has nothing to do with what this damn thing's worth. Let's go look at the data. Let's analyze this company and figure out what this sucker's really worth, and then we'll decide what we're willing to pay. That's huge. That's absolutely huge. I mean, that's not just huge in terms of and again, these are big theories. Like in finance, there's thousands of papers written on this with all kinds of math proving this basic point that the market price of an asset. Remember, I told you that was my specialty in my doctoral program was asset pricing, what they call price discovery, figuring out what the price of something should be. And what happens is that you can do a lot of math to figure out what the price should be, but that ain't always what the price is. Like meme stocks are an example of that. Like remember when GameStop was up to like $300 a share? All the experts were like, that don't make no damn sense because this company's worth about 25 cents. Why are people paying $300 for a stock that's worth 25 cents? So there's always like that gap. And Warren Buffett is the guy who sees the gap. That's why Warren Buffett would never buy meme stock. He's like, I don't care what people are doing. I'm not doing that. And I like that. I like that kind of sturdiness. Like, you know who you are. You ain't following no trends. Like, that to me is a type of courage, right? That's character. My father was like that. My father was like, I don't give a damn what people are doing down the street with their kids. This is what's going to happen in our house. And that saved me. All right, so let's keep going here. The stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Y'all have heard me talk about that. That basically, if you don't have the ability to delay gratification, it's going to be really difficult for you to build wealth. It won't just be difficult for you to build wealth; it'll be difficult for you to do anything, for you to build a family, for you to be healthy, for you to get along with people, for you, like the ability to delay gratification is one of the most significant, most important cultural characteristics that there is. That's what shapes strong families and strong communities. In fact, what was it? Jeff Bezos from Amazon. He was talking about why his company is so successful and they're worth a couple $1 trillion and all that because he quit his job to start Amazon. I don't know if y'all know that. He had a good job too. And and one thing that he said we have a longer time horizon than our competitors. We take our time. We really plan way out in the future. The Chinese, they do this too. They make 200-year plans for their companies. The Japanese will make a 300-year plan for their company. So it's not out of the question for you to make a 200-year plan for your family. You can do that. You can do that. Because see, a lot of times, here's why I know you can do it. Here's the thing. The key thing is you gotta say it with your chest when you say it though. You gotta lay it down like you really like this is what it's gonna be, right? Because think about this. People don't know who they are when they come in this world. They're looking for people who were here before them to tell them how things work. It's like starting a new job and you get somebody that's training you and they're like, yeah, that's Bob. Don't go talk to Bob because Bob is mean. And there's the vending machine. And if you kick it, then you can get, an extra can of Coke, right? Like you have people that will tell you, show you around the place, and you're leaning on that person because you don't know what the hell's going on. So I feel like that, like Earth is like that. Like you get to Earth, you're like, what is this place? Why am I here? What the hell's going on? And you lean on those people who guide you. You start with your mother. You're like, okay, that lady right there, she's staring at me, and I feel close to her, so I guess I'm gonna follow her around, right? And you learn, right? So here's my point. Here's what I'm getting at. I think that when you're talking about shaping family culture, if you're really clear and deliberate about like this is how we do things in this family, this is what we believe, and then, right now, okay, you're the mom, you're the dad, whatever. Then eventually you become the grandfather, and then you become the great grandfather, great grandmother, and then you become the elder, the ancestor. If you leave like almost like a template on success in life and family values, like a lot of people are going to pay attention to that. They're going to turn to that. You see what I mean? Like I when I wrote the book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, that was my way of leaving a template, a blueprint. I wrote that book. I didn't write that book just for you. I wrote that book for people that are going to be born 100 years from now. Like I did. I was like, okay, well, if okay, so George Washington Carver laid out blueprints back in 1901. Marcus Garvey said things in the 19th century and the early 20th century, and we still pay attention. Okay, what can I say right now and use whatever ounce of authority I have as a financial whatever the hell I am, and lay it out real clear. Like here's the Ten Commandments, here's the rules, man. Here's how you do it, right? That will really, really make a difference, in every generation going forward. What would that look like? And that's what that book was. That's what I was laying out there, right? Now, I don't know. I mean, I'm hoping it doesn't disappear, in history. I'm hoping that you'll help me, right? If I drop dead tomorrow, God forbid, I'm hoping that somebody will embrace the ideas enough to say, okay, yeah, this is a guide. This is, let's follow these little basic rules. This is how we're gonna do stuff. And what happens is over time, these rules start to become solidified. So with Buffett, when he says, going back to what he said about wealth being a transfer from impatient people to patient people, he's really talking about time and your willingness and your ability to use time to your economic advantage. Remember that wealth is easy to build if you have enough time. It's very easy to build if you have time. It's very hard to do if you don't have a lot of time. So when you see somebody that got rich overnight, that's not a good example of a wealth building process because that's not typically how wealth works. So the ability to delay gratifications, the ability to make long-term plans and stick with them, that's everything. So when Bernard is teaching his daughter stuff at the age of 3, and you know how kids are, they grow up so fast. Before you know it, she'll be 33 And all these things will have accumulated over time. And that little girl, she'll never have to work for anybody for her whole entire life because daddy set the tone. Daddy set the standard, right? So anyway, let me keep going here. It's far better to buy. So here's another quote he has I love. He says, "It's far better to buy a wonderful company at a fair price than to buy a fair company at a wonderful price." So what he basically says is that he's basically saying that, when you're talking about making a purchase, one thing Buffett has always done is he looks for really strong businesses and really strong companies. And that's what he likes to invest in. There's not much more to say about that. It's just, but it's worked. He's actually one of the few value investors who's actually been able to exceed the S&P 500 in the last 15 years, which has been very hard to do for value investors. Another one, he says, this is a good one for generational wealth. They ask him, well, what is your holding period? How long do you plan to hold your assets? And he says, our favorite holding period is forever, forever. So what that says is that answers a really popular question that I get a lot, which is, when should I sell my stock? And my next response to that question would be another question like, well, why would you sell? Why do you have to sell? Because one of the things that makes rich people rich is they buy stuff and they don't sell. They hold on to it. In fact, the biggest strategy, one of the biggest wealth strategies of rich people is what they call buy, borrow, and die. They buy a bunch of stuff, and then when they need money, they'll borrow against the stuff that they own to get cash flow. And then they'll die, and they'll have like an insurance policy that might, pay off all the debt or whatever and pass it on to the next generation. And the next generation doesn't have to pay taxes on any of the capital gains that were accumulated during the life of their parent. So basically, there's no reason why you have to sell things. There was one guy who's a billionaire, and he said the Forbes list is hilarious to me. And they said, well, why? He said, because he said most rich people I know, we don't sell nothing. You don't even know what our stuff is worth because we don't sell it. So how are you going to tell me what I'm worth when I told you that 90% of what I own is not for sale anyway? So there is no price. There is no price discovery. You don't know the price because the only way you know the price is if I reveal it, if I lay it out there. It's like quantum physics where they say in quantum mechanics that literally the particles in multiple places until you observe it and then it has to pick a spot. Well, you don't know the value of my land could be $1 billion. It could be $10. You can make a guesstimate of it, but you really don't know. Or this collectible art that I have, this painting I have from 1474. You don't know what that's really worth because I'm not calling Sotheby's. I'm not putting it up for auction. I'm just sitting on it. I'm gonna own it, right? So Warren Buffett, likes to buy stuff and hold it, and that's how he's been able to make his money, not by shuffling stocks. A lot of people make you think you gotta buy, sell, buy, sell, buy, sell, day trade, and that's how you make money. No, that stuff don't work. Next, he says risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Mm. So what he's basically saying is that if you take your time and if you educate yourself, if you do your research, if you do your due diligence, if you use time to take your time to get to know what you're investing in, then your risk naturally drops. Oh man, does that not apply to so many areas in your life like that baby mama that you hate that you slept with after the third date? Or the or all the other things the situations we gotten into where taking our time and doing our research and doing our due diligence before making the investment would have saved us from a ton of misery. This is as clear as it gets. What he's basically saying is that risk is relative. That's heavy. That's really heavy because a lot of times, first off, I see people that where things will go wrong and they don't know why they went wrong. And I'll just think to myself, well, how much time did you spend thinking about what you were going to do before you did it? That right there will tell you a lot, right? You go into something blind. If I'm driving down the street with a blindfold, that's riskier than me driving down the street with my eyes open. That's much riskier. It doesn't have to be riskier, but I've chosen for it to be a riskier decision. So the same thing is true with investing. I use the love analogy because love is a really big investment. You invest your body, you invest your time into another person. There's a lot of risk. They could kill you. They could get you could get pregnant, or they could get pregnant, or you could get a disease from that person, or they could just ruin your life, or they could just take all your money, right? All those are risk factors. And so what he's basically saying is that when you're talking about investing, whether it's a stock or investing in a person or investing in a career, take your time. research, do your due diligence, and when you do that, your risk level drops. Like my wife's aunt used to say, who was a math genius, she said, everything is easy if you study. Nothing's hard if you study. So the question is, did you study before you made the move, or did you move based on impulse? And because a lot of times we get inspired and we're like, ah, or just whatever, right? Or even think about like I like to think about the relationship stuff a lot because it's so emotional, so impulsive, so like I'm just gonna right, and we don't even think about how heavy that decision actually is. Um, Before I married my wife, I met a beautiful lady that was almost as pretty as my wife. Don't tell her I said this. But I met her and I was like ooh buddy, everything in me that's a man started to get like pumped up, like I was like, oh, look at that. And and uh and so but I was like, no, no, no. Okay, boys, let's woosah. Take your time. Let's just get to know her. Let's get to see her. Let's invest in this person in terms of getting to know her as a friend. Let's follow her on social media. Just see what you're dealing with because you got stuff on the line. You ain't trying to get Shannon Sharp out here. At that time, being Shannon Sharp was not a thing, so I didn't say it like that. But that's kind of right. So I just kind of observed this person, and then I saw behavior that was, put it this way, if I had chosen this person, um, I would be embarrassed to even tell you that she was my significant other. Not to put somebody down, but it was really shocking to me. It taught me a lot about myself because I said, man, I thought I was a smart person. She presented very, very well. She was very pretty, very smart. I like smart and pretty. That's a good combination. She had those little black woman curves and everything. And I was like, how could I have missed all these other things? I'm not even going to talk about what it was. It was just stuff that was just disturbing when I saw it. And it reminded me, it's like, good, aren't you glad you took your time? Aren't you glad you thought about it for a while as opposed to being impulsive and making the impulsive decision? So what I would encourage you to do is never think you can outsmart your emotion. That's what I'm saying. Right? Don't think you could outsmart you. Some of y'all are super smart. Some of y'all got advanced degrees. Some of you are thinkers, and I admire you for that. But I've just learned over time that you're still human, and it's very easy to fall into these impulse traps. And or maybe like let's say you sit down and you talk to a friend or a relative about a business idea, and you both get super excited, and you're emotionally excited about the idea of working with your cousin, and you don't take the time to create the contract, and you don't take the time to do the due diligence and the research and make sure that everything's going to be structured properly. And then you end up in the middle of a disaster that you did not anticipate at all. And where another area where that's very dangerous is lots of people sell investing the same way they sell gospel. It's like, in fact, some of them even do it in the church. There's a guy named Ephraim Taylor years ago. You can look him up. He was on American Greed. Ephraim Taylor, it was in our community, and he went to Bishop Eddie Long's church, among a lot of other churches, and he would speak this gospel of prosperity, and we got to invest in generational wealth and do this for our people. And unfortunately, with Ephraim, I don't think Ephraim was trying to be an evil guy. I still don't know if he was really a terrible person, but he was definitely making some mistakes because he was basically getting people to invest in what the feds determined was a Ponzi scheme. They were investing with him, and they were led to believe that he was buying these something like laundry vending machines or laundry little casino machine. I don't remember, something like that. But he wasn't. He was actually committing like one of worst offenses you can when you're collecting money from other people, which is taking money from new investors to pay the old ones. That's a classic Ponzi scheme, and it's very serious. Ephraim got 19 years in prison, and I think he got sent away maybe around 2010. So he may actually be getting out pretty soon. And I was really sad when I saw it, to be honest with you, because I didn't see a person who was like deliberately and maliciously seeking to harm people. I saw like a 25, 26-year-old who had never had that much money before in his life. And one thing that made it even worse is his wife did a music video, because everybody want to be a rapper, everybody wants to be a celebrity. That celebrity culture is way too deep in our community, and it's something that kind of concerns me a little bit. And in the video, his wife was getting out of a limo with diamonds and furs and everything else, and of course the feds played this video during his trial, and that just does not help you. So one of the things I would encourage you to pay attention to when you learn from a Warren Buffett is that flashiness is also extremely risky, and it's just not a healthy thing to do. When you get a lot of money, don't tell anybody. Don't go bragging about it. Just keep it to yourself. Play broke if you can. All right. So let's see here. Last thing is he says here, this is a good one. He says, only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who's been swimming naked. So he's basically saying that it's only when the tide. So we're standing here and the water's here, and you say, "What are you wearing underneath the water?" And I say, "Oh, I'm wearing a three-piece suit designed by Armani, and it's worth $5,000, and I'm just looking quite extraordinary beneath the water." Well, if you can't go beneath the water to see what I'm really wearing to confirm that, then I could literally be naked and just be lying to you, right? But then what happens is that, and you think about the water is the economy. That's what he means by the water. The water is the economy. So the economy ebbs and flows. So what happens is that you have this here, right? And a lot of people are faking it till they make it. A lot of people out here lying, pretending like things are good when they're not. And then the economy starts to sink, and then everything starts to get revealed. And then you're like, oh my God, I thought you were wearing a three-piece suit worth $5,000 and you're actually naked. And so what tends to happen economically is most like Ponzi schemes, big fraud, stuff like that, they get revealed during economic downturns. Bernie Madoff was able to fool everybody for many, many years because the economy was strong and he never had a financial problem. It wasn't until there was a financial crisis that everyone realized he didn't actually have the money he claimed to have. There's another guy who ran a family investment fund. I can't remember his name, but he was known for many years as an investing expert because he had this $20 billion portfolio. He was making all his money with the family office. And then when the economy went south, everything was revealed, and he got margin calls. He could not make the margin calls. Now he's actually on his way to prison. Um, Sam Bankman-Fried. If Sam Bankman-Fried had not run into the crypto crash, Sam Bankman-Fried would not only be a free man, but he would still be an admired member of society. If you remember before Bankman-Fried went down, he was the king of crypto. Everyone loved this guy and saw him as a Warren Buffett type of person. And he probably has Warren Buffett level intelligence, but what he doesn't have is a Warren Buffett level emotional discipline because he was a young kid who got exposed to a bunch of money, and that youth can cause you to take a lot of risks because you ain't never seen nothing yet. You don't know how bad things can get. And what a Buffett gets from his perspective, which is why you should listen to your elders, Buffett knows how bad things can get. Buffett is not the guy who says, "Oh yeah, this stock can never go down. Oh yeah, it's always going to keep going up." He's the guy that's like, "Yeah, I remember in 1975 we thought this couldn't happen, and then it actually happened, and now I know." Right? Or like my grandmother was raised during the Great Depression, so even when money was good, some of y'all got relatives like that. Let me know if you've seen this. Even when things were good, they were always kind of on the lookout, and they were always extremely careful because they know how bad things can get, right? So basically, what Buffett was saying with that quote is that typically when times get tough, that's when you find out what people are really made of. That's when you find out what their companies are made of. That's when you find out how they're actually really doing. So really, for your own edification in terms of how you manage your investing stuff, I would always sort of play out in your mind the worst case scenarios. And really what it speaks to is that Buffett style conservatism is a really powerful way to invest. I'm not saying that you have to be exactly like him. His philosophy is not perfect. There are times where you could legitimately critique some of what he believes, but he keeps it simple, right? And I just really think that that's such a great fit for our community because a lot of y'all got parents and grandparents who are like that too. Deep South, pre-integration, just be careful and thoughtful about your decisions. Don't go chasing waterfalls. People like that tend to, I think, not just are able to do well, but they're able to take calculated risks that allow you to still have prosperity while at the same time you're prepared for when things go wrong. Right? Like, so for example, right now, let's think about this. Let's think about the extraordinary risks that we're trained to take when it comes to, for example, working for white people, leaning on DEI programs, living paycheck to paycheck. I'm not making fun of anyone in this category, but these are things you're encouraged to do. Like, oh, white folks are good. Go work for them. They'll take care of you. Why would they? They've been oppressing you for 400 years. I don't depend on my oppressor to take care of me. I assume that at some point he might start acting white, and that's not going to be good for me. So, really, at the end of the day, the smartest black people I know are the ones who diversify their income streams. They go start their own business, they get their side hustles, they keep their family together. Why do you do that? Well, it's just in case Trump gets into office and they eliminate the DEI programs and eliminate all the stuff that's had you eating steak and lobster for the last 5 years, right? So having that plan B in place, taking advantage of plan A, but keeping plan B in your pocket and having plan C in your other pocket and having plan D in your sock, that's how you succeed financially. That's how you keep yourself prepared. Warren Buffett was a genius at this, and I just have a lot of respect for this man. So anyway, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. Quick reminder, Miami is next week, the Economic Elevation Summit. So if you want to join us in Miami or watch via live stream, you can go to economicelevation.summit.com. That's economicelevation.summit.com. Number two, tomorrow we're meeting for stock options income training, and we're going to do some fast cash action plays on ways you can make money selling stock options like right away. Like this is not hype. This is stuff you can actually do like tomorrow and actually make money come out. I'll give you guys a link if you guys want to do. We don't share the 30-day free trial link very much, but here it is if you guys want to use it. So here it is right here. So if you want to do a 30-day free trial, you can try that link right there. And that's something I'm sharing with you guys in the live class. We don't share much, and I won't go into why. We just could but there it is. So feel free to take a look, and we're gonna meet tomorrow night for prime class. Someone's asking about a consultation. Yeah, you can if you email support at theblackbusinessschool.com, support at theblackbusinessschool.com. You can schedule one, but actually, I'm going to do fewer consultations just because of the time limitations and stuff like that. Not that I don't like talking to you one on one. It's just be getting tired, you get exhausted sometimes, right? So there's a lot of stuff I have to do, so it's kind of hard to do. However, that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys have a great day. Make sure you're on the text list for this class. If you want to be invited tomorrow morning, just text the word morning to the number 87948. So text morning to 87948. Have a great day, everybody. God bless you. Thank you so much for listening.